Professor Akin Abayomi is the Commissioner for Health in Lagos. He joins us now on TVC News at 10. Prof, it's been a long day covering this very sad and horrific story. We hear that 2 people died on the spot and 4 others at the hospital. What's the figures now, especially for the injured, and what more do you know about their current state of health?
So thank you very much. So the latest data, and I've just left Lassuth, having done a tour of the hospitals where we transferred some patients to. But our latest score sheet shows that we have 102 patients altogether. And then out of those 102, we've recorded 6 deaths. So that tally has not changed in terms of the casualties. The fatal casualties. We transferred 25 to some of our big general hospitals, Bagada, Aurelia, Agege, the accident and emergency facility at the toll gate, and the Lagos Island General Hospital. Out of all these 102, about 45 of them were very serious injuries. And then the rest were classified as moderate or mild. So that's the latest update on the numbers.
You talked about transferring some victims to other hospitals. How much burden are our health facilities under right now?
Well, so Lassuth is the tertiary academic center where we deal with very advanced cases. So, in a situation like this, when we've completed our triage, you want to retain the very serious cases at Lassuth. And then you want to be able to decongest Lassuth by moving some of your moderate to mild cases to your experienced general hospitals where they can handle, fractures, broken bones, chest injuries. But when you have very serious injuries like injuries to the head, perhaps bleeding in the brain, bleeding in the chest, bleeding in the abdomen, where if you don't intervene very quickly, you might lose the patient. We like to keep the very serious patients at Lassuth. But, all in all, we will decongest Lassuth because Lassuth has to concentrate on dealing with saving the lives of the very seriously injured casualties. So there's no pressure on our system. It's just that we're moving patients around so that we can concentrate on saving lives. So as you know, since this afternoon, the death tally has not risen from 6. And this is because of the very efficient triaging that we've been able to do at the site and also at Lassuth, which is our premier center of medical excellence.
The social media has been buzzing, Prof, particularly as regards a particular viral video of the patients being treated outside the wards at Lassuth. We heard from the CMD talking about triage, the preliminary assessment of patients in order to determine the urgency of treatment. Talk to us about how much of a global standard that has been adhered to in Lagos today.
Okay, so it's very important for our listeners to understand what triage is. So when you have a mass casualty like we experienced today, there's a first level triage that occurs at the site of the injury or the accident. So our first responder is LASEMA, which is the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency. They go ahead of LASAMBUS, which is our ambulance service, to cordon the area to make it safe to, for example, saw open the bus or the train so that LASAMBUS can gain access to the patients. They secure the site, and then we set up a triage immediately at the site of the accident. So again, it'll be in the open air. The reason for triage is to classify patients into critical, severe, moderate, or mild. So LASAMBUS knows which patients to move first because it's a matter of minutes. If you have a severe to critical patient, you need to move that patient immediately whilst you can leave somebody with a broken hand or a broken leg for a few more minutes. It's not life-threatening. But if someone is bleeding, for example, and they're losing consciousness, you need to be able to triage that patient into severe and critical and move them first. So triage happens at the site of the mass casualty. Then we take as many of the patients as fast as possible to the premier medical facility in that jurisdiction. For us, that is Lasut. So in Lasut, you suddenly have 80 to 100 patients appearing. There is no casualty in the world that can accommodate 100 patients at the time. So the second level triage is at the Lasut. We've built a facility just outside surgical medical emergency where we normally carry out triage in the open air. Again, we put up the tents, we put the patients on soft mattresses, and then more advanced specialists come to carry out a more detailed triage. Again, at that point in time, we're trying to separate patients from severe, critical to moderate or mild. The severe and critical will go straight into theater or into ICU, where they're looked after by more experienced staff, or a surgical procedure is conducted that saves the life of the patient. Then we start to address the moderate or the mild cases. So triage is critical. It's the act of triage that saves lives. And triage normally happens in an open space where, you don't have a casualty, even in England or in America, that can suddenly accommodate 100 or more patients. It's not possible. So everywhere in the world, this phenomenon goes on. We carry out triage in the open, we move patients depending on their severity, and that is what saves lives. And since this afternoon, where we had 6 fatalities, we've not recorded any further fatalities, which is a reflection of the efficiency of the triage that took place at the site of the mass casualty and at the site of Lasut.
We're hoping that the casualty figure remains 6 and that the patients are getting the best treatment and care that they can. Professor Akin Abayomi, Commissioner for Health in Lagos, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.